Hello, friends. I bet you did not think you were going to see my face so soon, and in a context that is not a reading wrap-up, but oh my gosh. I have been reading this book, and I need to talk about it, okay? I have never done this before. I've never filmed a video like this. I don't have notes. I have highlights in the book. I don't have notes. I haven't even finished the book, okay? I have less than 50 more pages in the book. So this is basically kind of a reading vlog because I'm going to lay it out for you, tell you the characters, tell you what's going on, and then tell you the absolute insanity that I have been experiencing since reaching 60% in this book. And then I'm going to kind of come back to you tomorrow, I think, probably tomorrow morning. And that's when I'm going to just kind of tell you how it ends. Yeah, I have to talk about it. So this is just a complete bonus video. It's not going to mess up my regular schedule, but wow, we just have to get into it. Actually, no, we don't, because I need to set a timer. Then we will get into it. So, I picked up this book. It is called The Funeral Ladies of Ellery County by Claire Swinarski. I believe this is a new book. Let me double check that. Yes, it is a new book. It is a novel that was just published in March 12th of this year. I decided to pick this up because I love a book that has old people in it. I love old people characters. Also, quick disclaimer, again, this video is so impromptu that you're catching me at the end of my workday. I came straight home, sent my dog and my partner to the park, and I'm filming very randomly. So I'm sorry I look insane. It's hot today. I was sweating all day. I'm not my usual put together self at all. Maybe you can already tell that from this intro. But anyway, so I picked up The Funeral Ladies of Ellery County because I love a book with old people. I love a cozy small town book with old people that are characters that are funny and quirky and happy story, okay? And that is what this book is. It presents itself as this very Hallmark-esque intertwining stories of just these people. It's supposed to be, heartfelt, and it's about people making connections and relationships and finding their identities. And, it's just a feel-good story in the same way that you watch a Hallmark movie to feel good, to feel happy, okay? And that is the way that the first beginning part of this book reads. There were some little things that would bother me that I'll get to that in a minute. But for the most part, I was like, this is really good, okay? So I was with it. Then I reach 60%-ish through the book. And I don't know what happened to the original plot of the story. I don't know what happened, but Claire Swinarski, she just decided to give us trauma, okay? All of a sudden, we take this super dark turn into these dark themes that do not fit the tone of the book previously at all. Also, it doesn't really even fit with the way that the characters have been established up to this point. And it revolves around specifically a man dealing with PTSD after being in a really traumatic event, which I'll tell you about that in a minute. But it is shaming him and making him out to be this monster for the most part, which is really my biggest issue with this book. And I'm what happened to the original? Where are the funeral ladies? Hello? And it's utterly bizarre. And I don't know if she got butthurt by somebody who has PTSD in the middle of writing this book, and then she just changed her mind about what it's about. But it's ridiculous. And to be honest, in my opinion, harmful and weird to write. I'm very confused by it. And that's why, I just need to get it all out there. So it also, there's also just some very random, problematic takes in this book as well. Just very odd, strange little political things or just other things, which I'll also highlight because I literally have them highlighted in the book. So yeah, that's basically where we're at. I'm going to try to quickly give you like a recap of the characters before I start going through my highlights. Just a little bit of the characters and then kind of what's been happening up into the point that I will then kind of be showing you quotes and stuff, okay? So, this book opens up with Esther. She is a kind, motherly, quirky grandma, okay? And she lives in Ellery County, where she's lived basically her whole life. Her husband, Felix, has passed away and is talked about very, she misses him, she loves him. So that's there. She is part of a committee at her church. So it's a very small town. Everybody knows each other. And there's a committee at, their local parish. Like everybody goes to this Catholic church. And she's on this particular committee that makes food for people during their funerals. So they don't have to worry about, having food for the people who come to the funerals. All these old ladies bring their hometowny recipes and just feed everybody. Okay. So we have her. She has a daughter, Fran. Okay. Fran is not really super in the book. Just note that she's Esther's daughter. Okay. Fran's married. He's even less in the book. I don't care about him. I don't know him, right? I don't know this man. But Fran has 2 daughters. Okay. So Esther's granddaughters, and there's 2 of them. There's Olivia, who is pregnant. She is about to burst with child. She is described as being selfish because she prioritizes the fact that she's growing a human, and she's not going to do a bunch of random stuff for people because she's busy being pregnant, and somehow that's bad and wrong, but whatever. And then the more primary character, we have Iris. She is younger than Olivia. She is a freelance graphic designer. She's 26, I believe, and she has a house, and she also has bought another cabin that she is preparing to become not a bed and breakfast, an Airbnb. So this Airbnb comes into play when the plot opens up into being there's going to be a funeral. So obviously Esther is preparing all this food. But this funeral is for this woman named Annabelle, who is unfortunately passed. Annabelle used to live in this town with her parents, but went on to move away and then married a kind of semi-celebrity, celebrity chef, basically. He's like a, Food Network star, kind of, okay? And his name's Ivan. So there's this funeral, and Ivan Welsh obviously comes. It's kind of like a big deal because he's, kind of a celebrity. And his 2 kids, Cooper, who is not Annabelle's biological son. He is older. He's also 26. Ooh, are you seeing where this is going to go? And then we have Cricket, who's 13 and was Annabelle's biological daughter. Okay. They come to the town. They have the funeral. They meet, these old ladies and everybody. And then they have a mix-up with their cabin. And basically Esther, the grandma, offers up, well, my granddaughter Iris has a cabin that I'm sure you could just crash at, okay? So, of course, they go to stay at this cabin. Obviously, then Cooper and Iris become acquainted. But before we get there, there's a very, very big and important piece of the puzzle here that is missing. Or at least it was supposed to be before Claire got amnesia and forgot about it. But we find out that Esther, her family finds out, is $30,000 in debt because she gave away $30,000 to a stranger on the internet. When this happens, obviously, the family is super upset, and now, they're trying to figure out what to do. And basically, Cooper and the granddaughter Iris bond over this, basically. And she's just oh, my grandma. And he's oh, my dead stepmom, right? And they kind of, bond. Then, as they're figuring out what they're going to do to get their grandma out of the situation, because obviously, another really important thing, obviously they don't want their grandma to be in this kind of situation, but they're also very concerned that she's going to lose her house because this is a very important house to their family. It's, where the girls grew up. It's where they want their kids to grow up. So it's it's important to them that they save the house, basically. And they're going to need $30,000 to do it. So they're trying to come up with a $30,000 idea. And that results in, after Cooper and Cricket, I said the 13-year-old's name is Cricket. I mentioned that, by the way. They go to clean out a storage locker of Annabelle's, and they find this very, very old community cookbook that was made by like Annabelle's great-grandmother in her community. It was like all the ladies, for, you know, maybe fundraising purposes, made a cookbook. This then obviously gives them the idea, let's do a freaking cookbook, right? All these old ladies, you know, they feed people all the time. They're constantly making people food, making dishes for this committee. They have, you know, hundreds of recipes they could choose from. So let's, you know, get together and make a community cookbook. And they figure out that they need to sell 1,000 copies, and they're going to try to do that at this kind of big tourist event that's at the end of the year. Okay. This book opens up and it's like summer, I think, ish. Like, it's weird. So that's basically what we've got. Okay. And again, if you've read a book like this, you know the vibes. You know that it's, you know, it's, oh, like these people, their stories start interweaving, and like, you know, obviously each character is going to end up having, you know, a piece of themselves to give another character, and there's going to be, you know, just this heartwarming, like that's what these books are, right? And that's what it is, really, for the first half. But there's a couple weird things about this book that I think that we need to know. There were some small things that were bugging me right off the bat. One of those being the people in this book, the women, really, because it's just, you know, in that family with Esther and the daughter and the granddaughters, like, it's just like women. They can be very judgy, and in a way that is like hypocritical, okay? Which just doesn't really lend to the likability of your characters. And it's about weird stuff. You know, Olivia is this granddaughter that Esther loves so much, but she also, feels so annoyed at how selfish Olivia is because when Esther was with child, she was still up and about and taking care of other people and doing other things. And Olivia just wants to, like, have her, you know, agency still as a woman just because she's carrying a child. Like, it's just a little odd. And then, like, Iris, a whole point of her character is that she's kind of directionless, despite, you know, doing this freelance graphic design and having this cabinet and everything. She's kind of like, oh, am I behind my peers? Like, she has this weird, like, complex like that. But then she's out here talking about how she's judging another girl that she knew from high school that's 23 and is coming back to the town to live with her parents. And, living with your parents at 23? Like, and I'm like, girl, you're the one staying in this town because you want to be with your mommy and grandmommy. So, like what? Like, just because you live in a separate house, like, you're somehow better than her? So just, like, weird things like that. Like, little things where I'm like, you guys just kind of come off as, like, hypocrites. Which, to be honest, I wouldn't really be pointing that out if it doesn't then lend to the absolute insanity of the second half of the book. But the other thing that I have to note that's important for you to realize, because it is kind of part of the failure of where this book ends up going, this book has, like, very weird time jumps, okay? So it starts out, like, beginning of summer, and then we get to, like, a new chapter, and it's like weeks have gone by, and, like, stuff has, like, progressed without us, but we're not seeing that stuff progress, so it just feels like, girl, what? Like, and here's a good example of that I can give you. Obviously, like I said, Iris and Cooper hit it off. And very quickly, like, they're gonna, like, go out on a date, right? But then, like, the time is skipping, and all of a sudden, like, they've been dating, and it's getting serious. But again, it's only been, even at this point, still, like, a couple months. But it's still, like, why the time skip? And, like, the weirdest thing is, like, you know how in these books, like, usually when, like, the main couple of the book gets together, like, the first kiss is, like, a big deal, you know? We don't see that. Like, we don't see their first kiss, which I wouldn't think of or draw attention to, except that we sort of, like, we're skipping along and, like, this stuff is, like, progressing, and all of a sudden they're referencing, like, oh, after we went to McDonald's at one time, we made out in the parking lot over French fries. And it's like, whoa, like, you guys just got together. Like, we haven't seen you guys kiss or, like, reach any milestones, you know, not even just first kiss, but, like, we haven't seen you reach any milestones. All of a sudden, like, you're just, like, casually making out. You're just like, you're getting serious now after like a month. Like, weird, right? This is about the time where my notes have ended. I am now solely relying on the stuff that I've been highlighting in this book to communicate to you. Oh, shoot! I didn't say a major thing. Okay, hold on. Point is, this is where my notes end. I'm relying on the note taking that I did in the actual book, the highlighting and stuff. So if this is a little all over the place, I apologize. This is the first time I'm doing something like this. Yeah, we'll see how this goes. We'll see if I can manage it. Okay, so the very important thing that I neglected to mention that really is the jumping off point for the rest of the book is that Cooper was a paramedic. And he already grew up with an absent father and already like has, not issues, but just like trauma from that. He was a paramedic with the goal of going to medical school. But then he was in a very traumatic event where there was a public shooting. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. Whatever. There was a public shooting, a mass shooting, and he was there. And obviously he's a paramedic, so he's trying to like help people. This girl tragically died basically in his arms. Very traumatic. Like this extremely traumatic event in this man's life. And now his stepmom has died and he has become the legal guardian for his 13-year-old sister. He also has a therapist, okay? The therapist is like not a character in the book, but like mentioned, like talked to, So Mans is, semi dealing with his already. Every once in a while, Cooper has these little episodes where, he kind of like a sound like triggers him and it's described the entire time throughout the whole book as like he kind of just like zones out for a minute, kind of back in flashbacks to that event, right? Well, at about 60% through the book, actually, let me see if I can go find exactly where it is. Okay, so I found it. I found where it happens. This is 56% through the book. This is over halfway through the book. And we just diverge from the main plot. Iris and Cooper are sitting on a dock. Up until this point, I have to say this before, Esther, we have learned little tidbits. Like, whenever she thinks about her husband, like, she thinks of him, like, so fondly and, she misses him and everything. But then, kind of randomly, around this same time, we start hearing about these other little tidbits of, like basically Felix dealt with PTSD because he was in the Vietnam War. So he would, get angry and just we're learning these little things, okay? So Cooper and Iris, they're sitting on her grandma's dock, on Esther's dock, and the neighbor starts splitting wood and it's a trigger sound for Cooper, and he kind of starts dissociating basically, and he's kind of just having these flashbacks, and then we kind of jump forward and all of a sudden he's coming to, and Iris is gone, and it's Esther who's like, come on, snap out of it. Here's where my first thought reading this is, she had a husband who dealt with PTSD, so she's going to be able to, help him. All these books are all about helping and how to bettering people and everything. So I'm she's going to be able to help him, help Iris, be able to support him. No, not where it was going. Okay. Cooper wakes up. He kind of tries to pass it off I just have a headache or something. And she's like, no, I know, and right. And again, I think, she's going to help him. She's going to spur him to, she's going to have a way for him to deal with some of this better. I don't know, right? That's what you'd think. No, because immediately the chapter after, we switch to Esther's perspective and she's inviting Iris over for cookies and basically to have an intervention. Here's Iris. I mean, when you think about what he saw at that parade, I just think it really messes with him sometimes, Iris said, which makes sense. Of course it does. Yeah, it does. And again, up until this point, the only behavior that we've seen from Cooper when he has these flashbacks is he just kind of zones out of the conversation. We haven't seen any other behavior that's concerning or something, So you're not showing your audience any red flags. But then here's what Esther says. Of course, Esther repeated flatly. So, said Iris with a shrug, sometimes he just kind of freaks out. He's done this with you before? Esther asks. Done it before? That sharp tone tiptoed in. It's not, skip. It's not something he does, Grandma. It just comes over him. Yeah, in the way that PTSD does, right? She waves a hand, small things. He hates loud noises, yada, yada, yada. He gets angry, Esther asks. Not at me, said Iris. I mean, he gets irritated, annoyed at things when he's in a bad mood. He doesn't get a lot of sleep, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot. Too much, maybe, said Esther. Esther, who's been pro this relationship this entire time. Her whole family is. And again, him, zoning out and maybe even, passing out, that's not this, insane red flag that you're pretending it is. It worried me, said Esther, seeing him like that, a person you could marry. Yeah, because people with PTSD just aren't worthy of having marital bliss, apparently, according to Esther. Basically, Iris gets upset and she leaves. That's really all it is. Here's Esther. But Iris had no idea. She didn't know what it was like to be married to a person who was so wounded, whose feelings were hurt so easily. It hadn't just been that one time. She knew it hadn't. It wouldn't be either. They could call it depression or battle fatigue or PTSD, whatever they wanted. But the wives, they bore a burden too, a heavy one. The men saw a horror and the women made it go away. Esther's full-time job had been to keep Felix happy, to keep Felix from remembering, to keep Felix from getting too upset so his mood wouldn't become a cloud that covered the entire house. Blah, 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 on and on. Babe, 1, you're trauma dumping. 2, you're projecting. Okay? What are you talking about? It hasn't been this one time, this anger, all this stuff. Did that happen? Is that what happened? No. Where is this coming from? What is going on? I'm so confused. The worst she knew was not managing his feelings. That part was easy. So much could be soothed with time and a whispered apology. A cocktail passed from his hand to yours. It was the slow, soft beat of your heart reminding you that you were losing yourself. With every sorry you don't mean, with every argument you forfeit. Why would you do that? Why would you say sorry if you don't mean it? Why would you, right? It sounds like you had issues. It sounds like you didn't do a good job being married to somebody with PTSD, right? It's so, weird to be oh, if you have PTSD, you're going to be emotionally abusive, so, nobody date them, right? She shouldn't have to walk on eggshells. She shouldn't have to, right? Bro should have went to therapy, maybe, and then maybe you would have been happy. I don't know, what? I'm so confused. She was afraid of Felix. There's so much I could read here, but I'm trying to, parse it out. She was afraid of Felix, not of his hands, but of his moods, his words, the way he could cut into her like the knife he always carried, the way he'd wake up screaming and it was somehow her fault for not keeping him safe. Babe, you were emotionally abused, okay? And that does not mean that this other man with your other granddaughter they're different people in this different situation. He already has a therapist. And again, what we've seen of him so far is he's kind of dealing with his shit. That changes a little. She tries to change it to make it justified that they're judging this man so horribly. But it's not giving what you think it's giving. It's not giving ally for women in the way that you think it is. Yada, yada, yada. She just monologues for a while. And then at the end of the chapter, she goes, it was exhausting trying to convince all these people, separate thing, not about the husband, just the people that she loves, that sometimes love didn't look like a pat on the back, that sometimes it looked like telling the hard truths you didn't want to hear. I don't like that, okay? You're getting into hate the sin, love the sinner territory. Right? It's a little, I don't know what it's giving. I don't like it. It's a little icky to me. Because also, you projected onto your granddaughter all this stuff. There was him just being and passing out is not this big red flag she's acting right? And I just don't like it. Ugh. Chapter 17 opens up. Iris is talking to her sister Olivia and is yeah, I'm getting serious about Cooper, right? Then they're in the car and they're talking about Cricket, and Cooper is her legal guardian, and basically Ivan and Cooper are having a difference of opinion about what should happen with Cricket. And Cooper obviously gets upset because he doesn't have a good relationship with his dad. And he's saying he doesn't get an opinion, Iris. He's a mess. He can't even take care of her. That's why I have to do it, right? A reasonable response, to be honest. And she's okay, yeah, not okay, not yeah. But what else was she supposed to say? Say what your opinion. You're actively silencing yourself. And nothing of Cooper that we've seen so far in this book tells me that you would need to silence yourself around him. Besides, she didn't want to ruin this night. Don't let him get worked up. She begged God or the universe or the loons. She hoped someone was listening. This is the first time we've seen this. Any of this. And we're, again, 63% in the book. And being like, oh, don't let him get worked up. Like, where have we seen this happening before? And also, girl, you've been together for 3 seconds. Stop dating then. Break up. Right? Weird. Also, like, it's a topic that's very, like, personal. And he's allowed to get upset about being saddled with custody of his younger sister and now like his absent father having opinions about it. Like, that's upsetting, right? Like, ugh, gross. Stop minimizing his feelings. Like, she hadn't told Esther about the other times. The times it was longer than a minute. The times when he'd been drinking and everything felt a whole lot heavier and a whole lot louder. The times when he seemed angry at her. She's talking about managing his emotions. And it's like, girl, nobody's asking you to do that. And again, we haven't seen any of this so far. Like, we've barely seen any of their relationship at all, much less like this, like, oh, this dark, angry side of Cooper. Like, what are you talking about? Now, they go to a restaurant and they're sitting there and Cooper kind of zones out. But he's had some wine and he's a little tipsy. He's asking for more wine. And she's like, okay, Cooper, let's order. I'm starving. And she's just acting super weird. Like, just say something. Like, just say, like, dude, okay, no, you need to get some food in you. Like, let's, you know, right? Like, stop being a weirdo. Why are you making it weird? Like, why are you acting like this, like, scared little victim when he's literally just tipsy at a restaurant? He knocks over his glass and it breaks. The manager comes up and he's like, you know, is everything okay? And Cooper is like, what the f? And he's like flinging like off like wine from his hand and he accidentally kind of brushes the manager's arm. It's not a big deal, right? But she's like all like freaking out. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, he starts freaking out. He's like, don't touch me. And he stands up and it's all like this whole like thing. And it's like, where is again, 64% into the book, and this is just now being established that he could even possibly act like this in this kind of setting. It's just so odd to try to turn the story like this into this like really heavy stuff, and she's shaking and she's embarrassed, and it's like, stop, like, you're acting like insane. Like, stop being like a martyr. I also have to say, this is in a town where it's very talked about constantly, like, oh, everybody drinks, like, oh, you stop by at 11 a.m. and I'm going to offer you a beer. Like, everybody drinks all the time, right? And so this is one of those moments where it's just like, you guys are just weirdly hypocritical because they're like, oh yeah, drinks. And I'll show you a weird example of that later. But now all of a sudden she's like, I'm never going to look at him the same way. Getting drunk at a restaurant, even though like you and your grandma were joking about that like 3 chapters ago. Where was this at 30% into the book? Why are you trying to tell this now in the last half of your already kind of short novel? I just don't, like, the way that it's being handled and the way he's being talked about is so yucky to me. Like, this man who's like dealing with this like insane trauma and stuff, and the way they're like whispering about it. And so like, I don't like it. Oh, she goes, those sobs, because he was crying. She'd never seen that layer. Neither had Esther, and Iris intended to keep it that way. That layer? Him crying? Him being traumatized and sad? Like, that's the other thing too, is realistically, if you're not prepared to date someone that's dealing with stuff like this, you need to bow out of the relationship then. Not like be talking about him like this with your grandma and in your head. Yeah, then like Esther like goes on this whole tirade about how like it's like a mom's job to like do all the stuff for the kids. Felix had been as doting a father as you'd see back then, but he couldn't fathom Fran asking him to take her to the bathroom, or even him being the one to take her out of mass while she cried. The baby, right? Now men were expected to be equal partners. Yeah, girl, again, it just sounds like your marriage sucked. Olivia's husband, Kurt, was reading some book. Dude, you're a dad. Esther had to hold back laughter when she saw it, as if a book could prepare you for such a thing. Girl, like, what is that? Like, and that's like one of those little like judgy things. I'm like, why would you? Oh, so we're discouraging people reading parenting books. Right? Like, what? Like, you're just judgy for no reason, dude. You're talking about how your husband sucked, apparently, and then you're gonna point the finger at other people trying to be better? Like, what are you talking about? She like is mad that they like care about the house, and she's like, but it was just a house. She'd burn it to the ground if she had to. Everyone around her was used to it because it was what they'd grown up with. They should have grown up with nothing like Esther had. What happened to the original plot of the movie? She's this nice, didactic, like lovely old lady at the beginning of this book. And then all of a sudden there's all this like croniness coming out. And she like makes weird comments about like Democrats and stuff. And like, oh, it's what Felix said, but still. Oh, here. Laziness was something she'd never tolerated. One of her and Felix's favorite rants to go off on together was about why high schoolers thought they were too good to flip burgers and scoop ice cream anymore. Although she shouldn't be so just judgmental. Yeah, girl. Yeah. That thought that you just had right there, take a hold of it, internalize it, fix this. 'Cause, hello? That was what fathers were for, really, not bedtime snuggles. No, that was a mother's job, and it always had been. Girl, stop. What is this? What is this internalized misogyny? What is this? Oh, my life was miserable, so now everybody else's has to be, including my child and her children, because even though they're the people that I love most in the whole world, like, girl, if that's your kind of love, I don't want it. I don't want it. No love like Christian hate. No love like Catholic hate, apparently. Things do kind of start to go downhill for Cooper and Cricket. She's like having a hard time with her online schooling. He's kind of not pushing it because he's kind of getting himself into a bad place. But at the same time, there's some healing going on between them and their dad. So there is like this sort of growth, like they invite him to eat with them and like stuff like that. So despite the fact that there's some other factors, like there is some progression of like, oh, the healing and oh, like, you know, their dad is more present and everything. There's just like this kind of climactic moment of, wow, there's so much healing going on for Ivan and Cricket and Cooper. They're at the beach together, they're laughing and having a good time. And then all of a sudden, out of freaking nowhere, we jump ahead, we skip ahead again, and they basically wake up and Ivan is like coughing up blood, and he lets them know that he's dying and that he has known, and that's why he's been sticking around this town, trying to cope with the fact that he's ill and he's going to pass away. Okay, here's the freaking crazy thing. I'm almost to where I'm at in the book. So we're getting down to the very end. But Olivia has her baby. They're all at Olivia's house, not in the hospital room. Okay. Olivia says, "No, but I can make one hell of a gin and tonic." Olivia took a long sip of her drink. "God, this tastes good after 9 months." Fran waved her hand. "I had a cocktail or two with each of you in my stomach. And Mom drank like a fish when she was pregnant with me." Oh, so we're demonizing Cooper for drinking too much alcohol in this town where you're constantly encouraging him to drink too much alcohol, but then you're openly admitting to drinking while you were pregnant as if that's not a big deal? What? What is happening? This is what Esther says. "They call everything alcoholism these days," said Esther, who was folding a massive mountain of baby clothes. "I mean, my God, a little DUI is a felony now, as if we haven't all driven home from Vernon's after a few brandy old fashions. Sorry, I wrote it at the end, but... What? Claire Swirinsko? Please? Back it up? What? You're writing and publishing a book. You have been given that chance. And this is what you're choosing to say? This is what you're choosing to promote? Oh, and then Olivia complains about how in France, she got to stay in the hospital for a week for free, and then in their hospital where she just had this child, they kicked her out after a day with nothing but a bottle of painkillers. Fran goes, "Don't let your dad hear you," said Fran. "He'll think you've turned into one of those socialist healthcare people." Okay, all right. So this is what we're doing, right? You know, like, oh my God, oh no, a weird socialist healthcare person who wants paid maternity leave and not $30,000 of debt after popping out a baby in a hospital room, right? Like, I'm tired, you know? this is where Iris goes, she didn't really want to get dinner with Cooper, to be honest. She wanted to be with her family, da-da-da-da-da. He's like, he was hungover when she saw him last. He was about to drink another thing, and he kicked a chair. Again, every time we're in Cooper's head, he's this like nice, gentle man. But then we're hearing all these things that he supposedly did when we're in the POV of another person. But then when we jump back into his head, he's like this nice guy again. So it's like, you have to show us this stuff. Like, how is he doing this? Because we're not seeing this side of him. Like, have us in his head and he like loses control and kicks the freaking chair, right? Like, why are you not showing us that? Why are we not getting that perspective? Because it feels very disconnected. It feels like these are two different people that you're talking about. Surprise, Cooper has like a twin, an identical twin, and that's the one that she's actually been dating, because like it's so like polar opposite to what we know about him. Oh my God, she goes on this weird tirade about how it wasn't fair. Iris's dad was the most easygoing person on the planet, and this person has this good husband, and he's so nice, and he's so great. Why was she the one who'd fallen in love with an angry man? Then break up. Break up, girl. You're not married. And even if you are, divorce. If this kind of behavior is going on, really, again, I'm not trying to apologize for like this, if he's an angry man, he's abusing her and stuff. I'm not saying that that's okay. I'm saying that there's a problem here with the narrative because we're not seeing that, and it feels very out of nowhere. But I'm not saying that this behavior is okay. Let me just make that like super clear. If this is the case, if you start dating a dude and a couple months into the relationship, he starts being abusive and crazy, break up. Don't be like, oh, pity party. Why did I fall in love with an angry man? Like, girl, take some agency, right? He starts like, okay, so now Iris and him are together again. The worst part wasn't the ranting. It was Iris having to nodding along. Yeah, you're right. She wasn't a person with her own thoughts. She was just an audience. Why? I debate with my partner about stuff all the time. What a strange thing to feel about your relationship. Why? Why wouldn't you say, no, I don't agree because this. And then we just get this scene where he gets super angry again out of nowhere. And again, we've never seen this before. And he blames her for, why'd you put this on anyway? Which is like what Esther was saying about like Felix. He would get mad at her. But it just feels so like she's trying to create this parallel between those two relationships. But again, it's with a character that it doesn't fit. Like you establish this dude's character for 56% more, really. We're not seeing this anger stuff until 81% through the book. Like, you can't do that. You can't establish a character and it's just like this sweet man, and then all of a sudden, like, this is what's happening, I think I'm about to be at the part where I stopped. So she says, he didn't mean to lose control like that, but he didn't do anything to stop it either. She would forgive him and he would do it again. And the cycle would start over and over and over. You mean over the last 2 months? This was a disaster. Then break up. But it would continue to be one for years. And nobody was coming to save her from it. It would continue to be one for years because you can't break up and nobody's coming to save you from it. Yeah, because you are not telling anyone. You actively just made the choice to not tell anyone. And again, I'm not trying to blame her. I'm not trying to, victim blame like, oh, her, being a victim of this abuse. But again, this is a 2-month relationship where you see some red flags, then you get out of there. Stop acting like you've been saddled with this man for years and years and there's nothing you can do. Like, it's not the same thing. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that's not the same thing. And it's just so odd. Actual last thing, Cooper gets super drunk. He's, just seems very depressed, very down. And Cricket gets a ride home because he was supposed to go pick up Cricket from like a local coffee shop. He just doesn't. He passes out. Cricket gets a ride home from Father Sam, the guy, the main guy at the parish. And Cooper, in his very drunken, addled, flashback-y mind, starts thinking of Father Sam as like a bad man who's trying to hurt Cricket or something. And he punches him and like beats him up. Okay. Ivan stops it. And that's basically where I'm at. I am 84% of the way through. I have about 43 pages left. I will be back in the morning to let you know how that goes. Thanks for sticking with me if you're still here, but I'll see you again in the morning. Good morning. Unfortunately, I already tried to film this and it did not take the video. So if you're seeing this video, then hopefully that means it works this time. But now I have to just like re-talk through this. So I finished the book last night. I actually had less than I even thought that I did to finish. I had like 35 to 40 pages, and that's on my phone. So I was like very, very much at the end. So the only thing that sucks is I am too used to like reading on my phone, and it's such a habit that this has happened to me multiple times where I finish a book and I think like, oh, I need to keep it for something, but then my natural reflex is just immediately return it. So despite the fact that I went through and I highlighted specific things for you, I forgot to then keep the book. So I returned it, and now I only have really just my memory, which is pretty good because I just read it last night. But still, I don't have anything specific I can show you, and that is unfortunate, but you know, it is what it is. Where I left you, Cooper had just beat up Father Sam, which, as you already know, I just disagree with the way that they're talking about it, with the way that they're talking about people with PTSD and like his issues, because it just comes off as very icky to me. It comes off as very just accusing anyone with PTSD of like being abusive. Not a fan of that. But there really are other things that are wrong with the ending, because at this point the book just gets so sad. So again, like, I go into books like this thinking that I'm getting like something that ties up with a happy Hallmark ending bow. And that is just not what's happening here. We get the little bit of, oh, Olivia had her baby, and Ivan and Cooper and Cricket, their relationship is healing. But then all of a sudden, Ivan is dying. Cooper goes off the deep end, beats up Father Sam. So now he can't retain custody of Cricket. So now that's a mess. So he like goes off to do some exposure therapy thing to see if he gets better. And we kind of flash forward again in this story, like a month and a half. In this time, the original plot of the book, the cookbook. Oh, did you forget about that? Yeah, me too, because we just completely lost the fact that that was supposed to be the main plot of this story. But the cookbook does not sell. The tourist night that they're trying to sell this book, there's a huge snowstorm, barely anyone comes, and they sell 10 copies of the book. Esther, being the insufferable person that she is like, I don't care. I would have burned down the house anyway for any of my family, any of my friends. And it's like, girl, don't you care about the fact that your family cares about you losing this family home, right? Like, she is insufferable by the end of this book. I cannot stand her. And that shouldn't be the point of this story. We're supposed to be rooting for her, but she just sucks. First of all, they're super hypocritical. When they're going to this tourist event, they're bringing their booze backpack. And they're joking about, oh, everybody gets labeled an alcoholic these days. Like, it's no biggie. Like, everybody brings their booze backpack to this thing. And she literally, like, they make fun of Iris for being like, whoa, slow down, or whoa, like, alcohol's not something to, like, take this lightly or whatever. They, like, make fun of her, and they're like, oh, kids these days, I would have never thought to question my dad after he got off the farm and drank a 6-pack of beer every single night. And I'm just like, why are you saying that like it's a good thing? Like, why are you saying that like that's good, and that these younger generations are so dumb and stupid for trying to shift the discussion around alcohol and not make casual alcoholism so common, right? Like, what a just a strange ideological thing to just toss into this book and try to make, like, spin it into, like, this is the right way and, like, the positive thing, when it is literally just trying to normalize alcoholism. But in addition to that, they act like they're, like, these, you know, Catholic purity monoliths, right? And, like, they can do no wrong, and oh, they're so good, and they're gods, and they're saints, and they're yada, yada, yada. But it's like, okay, why are you, again, normalizing alcoholism? And why are you demonizing Cooper, the character, whenever he picks up a drink and they sit around and gossip and whisper about him and, oh, he's drinking again? Like, oh no, right? Like, you mean the alcohol that you've been pushing on him ever since he got here? Like, you mean this town where you're saying that your 3 DUIs, like, aren't a big deal? Like, the hypocrisy goes crazy. We also never get any kind of follow-up about who the character Hazel was, who took all that money from Esther in the first place. And again, like, that's one of the most interesting things potentially about this book, is unmasking the person behind this, like, big tragedy for her. And we just completely discard that. The ending is literally just an Iris and Cooper show. And nobody, I'm sorry, I don't want that. The other Goodreads reviews I'm saying did not want that, because who's rooting for these people at this point? And why would I root for this girl who's been viewing this man that has PTSD this whole time as if he's just some, like, emotional, like, he's just, like, abusive and he's broken and, like, all this stuff. Like, no, girl, it sounds like you need to go, like, find somebody else. Like, I don't get it. The book basically ends also on a very low note with them deciding that Cricket needs to go away and live with her friend Sophie's family. They're going to take custody of her, and she doesn't want to go. And Cooper is like, I still have to, like, work on my shit, so, like, I'm sorry, you have to go. That storyline literally ends with her getting in the car, driving away, and saying, I hate you, I will never forgive you. I'm sorry, where's the Hallmark ending I was promised here? Why is this so sad and dark? Ivan is dying. Cricket and Cooper are like she hates him now. Like they have no relationship anymore. The Esther didn't get the money from the cookbook that she needs. And of course, that wraps up just with them finally acquiescing to Ivan and being like, okay, you can post on your social media now. You can do the thing that would have saved us so much time and so much effort and money and would have solved our problem immediately. You can do that now because it's convenient for the plot. So they do that. They sell the cookbook out in 3 days. And originally, the last time I filmed this, like literally 20 minutes ago, I kind of went into some details about just how choppy and messy the ending is of this book. But since I don't have like the examples on my phone, I can't really show you or read to you specifically. I'm just gonna tell you, the editing at the end of this book especially is so choppy. There are so many little things that don't line up. Like, there are so many things that, like, okay, if this is true, that can't be true, but you're trying to tell me they're both true. Like, there's so many little, like, idiosyncrasies and stuff that just don't work at the end of this book, and I'm like, who edited this? Like, who didn't see that these two statements completely contradict each other? Because they need to be fired. And the book ends with Cooper and Iris talking to each other and being like, well, we love each other, but you got some shit to work on, so you're not ready yet, and I'm not ready yet, so we can't be together. And that's the end. So basically, nobody gets a happy ending, and nothing good happens. So what was the point? What was the purpose of this? The way that you marketed this and the cover and the blurb and everything is so misleading from the book that it actually turned out to be. But the book that it actually turned out to be wasn't even good. The other thing that I want to point out is there's a lot of weird little sprinkles of different political ideologies that don't really have a place in this book other than just like the author maybe feels this way and so she's writing it into this book. But it's just stuff that's in very poor taste in my opinion. Again, like I said before, like just the gun control stuff coming from Cooper is so bizarre because I'm pretty sure somebody with his background would be advocating for gun control. So it just kind of sounds like you just want to talk about how gun control is stupid, you know? And unfortunately, I think that even more now because I found out that this author seems to be like one of these women, a very Catholic white woman, okay? She thanks God first in the acknowledgments of her book, and I'm like, okay, it's starting to make sense. The hypocrisy, the judgment, and that's coming from somebody who is religious, like that it's starting to make sense. Yikes. Yeah, just it was a mess. And even I didn't even realize this, but even on Libby, one of the tags for this book is like Christian fiction. And I'm like, really though? Like Christian where? Because this is like doom and gloom, like nobody gets a happy ending and everybody's drunk. So I'm not sure where that's coming into play. I'm not sure what this author was even attempting to do, to be honest. And yeah, I don't know. I think that's all I have to say. I really just had to get all of that off my chest. It really bothered me. Just specifically the way PTSD is portrayed in this book. Not everybody who has PTSD is going to be some crazy, abusive person, okay? And it's weird to write that into a book as if that is the way that it is, you know? I don't like that, not a fan of that. As well as just, you know, all this other stuff that I talked about, like, yeah, it was pissing me off and I had to like get it out. So let me know if you enjoyed this kind of video. I do have another rant review planned for this month, as well as my wrap up, which will just be coming like a week later. My first video of the month is not usually a video like this, but it was really on my heart. It was really on my heart this time. So yeah, let me know what you think. If this was a mess, I'm sorry. It was very off the cuff. I don't have the book. I don't have really very adequate notes for it. So if this wasn't a great video to you, maybe try my rant review coming in a few weeks because I will have like the actual text as well as highlights as well as like note taking on the entire book. So give me a chance if this wasn't your cup of tea. But other than that, yeah, just let me know what you think. Let me know if you see where I'm coming from or what, if you've read this book, like what you think of it. I'm super curious because I'm seeing, you know, some people love it, but I'm also seeing some people kind of saying the stuff that I'm saying. You know, like, subscribe, whatever, do any of that. But really, like, my social medias are in the description. You can always DM me, preferably on Instagram because that's the one that I'm on the most. But yeah, I just want to chat with some people about some books, especially if you're a ranter like me because, Lord knows I need to get it out somehow. I think that's all I got for you. So yeah, thank you if you've made it to the end. I appreciate you, I see you, and I will hopefully see you again next time. So, bye.